yourself wishing you could just like,
Read.
yeah,
Later.
ever catch yourself wishing you could just like tap into a whole different way of speaking?
Oh, totally. It's like unlocking a secret code in your brain or something.
Right. And some languages feel more like cracking a safe than learning. But what if I told you today's deep dive is all about a language that might be way more accessible than you think?
Okay, now you've got me intrigued.
Yeah.
Lay it on me. What linguistic mystery are we tackling today?
We're diving into the world of Tunisian Arabic, and let me tell you, this is way more than just where's the bathroom phrases for tourists.
And knowing this show, I have a feeling we're going to get into the nitty gritty,
Yeah.
like the grammar rules and how those actually play out in real life.
Oh, you know it. But we're also going to uncover how Tunisian Arabic holds a whole cultural story within it. And for that, we have one amazing linguist to thank, Mohammed Bacha.
Bacha, yeah. His work is incredible. What always blows my mind is he's not just studying this language, he's building bridges so the rest of us can actually experience it.
Totally. Textbooks, dictionaries, even translations of freaking book tales and songs. He's like a one-man army for bringing Tunisian Arabic to the world.
Which is huge. Because let's be real, textbooks can be a bit dry. But folk tales and songs, those have a way of pulling you into a culture's soul.
100%. And speaking of textbooks, his Tunisian Arabic in 30 lessons is a total eye-opener. 30 lessons.
Is he seriously suggesting you could grasp a whole language in that time?
Well, that's the claim, isn't it? And it kind of hints at this whole other discussion in linguistics about something called universal grammar.
Universal grammar. Okay, now we're getting into the good stuff. Yeah, so it's this idea that deep down, like way deep down, all languages share a common structure.
So instead of starting from scratch with each new language, there's already this kind of framework in our brains.
Exactly. And the excerpt we're looking at dives into this whole deep structure versus surface structure thing, which sounds scarier than it actually is.
It did make my eyes glaze over a bit at first, not gonna lie.
Right. But the example they use is actually super helpful. So think of it like this: deep structure is the core meaning of what you want to say, like the pure, raw message you're trying to get across.
Okay, that makes sense.
And then surface structure is how that meaning actually comes out. You know, the specific words, the grammar rules, all that jazz. And that can change a ton from language to language, even if the core message stays the same.
Oh, I see what you mean. So, like, two languages might sound totally different on the surface with different words and grammar, but underneath, at their core, they might be working with the same basic building blocks of meaning.
You got it. And Bacha seems to believe that by tapping into those universal structures, learning a new language becomes more about recognizing patterns and making connections, rather than just memorizing a jumble of random rules.
Hmm. So instead of seeing it as this massive mountain of new stuff to learn, maybe it's more about finding those common threads, those echoes of what we already know deep down in our language brains. That's kind of cool.
I know, right? But we should probably acknowledge that this whole universal grammar idea, well, let's just say it's not exactly universally accepted in the linguistics world.
There's always a debate, isn't there? Nothing's ever simple.
Exactly. Some linguists are all about universal grammar, but others are more like, hold on a minute. If it's so universal, why are languages so wildly different from each other?
Yeah, it's not like there's just one global language.
Right. So it's definitely a debate worth having, and it gets pretty complex. But hey, even if universal grammar only helps a little bit, I'm all for anything that makes language learning less intimidating.
Me too. Who knows? Maybe Botch is onto something.
Uh-huh.
But before we go down that rabbit hole, are you ready to hear about some of the things that make Tunisian Arabic so unique?
Oh, absolutely. Hit me with your best shot.
Okay, buckle up because we're about to venture into a world where one word can pack the same punch as an entire sentence in English. And trust me, that's just the tip of the iceberg. One word, a whole sentence. Okay, you got to give me the goods on this one because I'm having trouble wrapping my head around that.
All right, so picture this. Kalintu, just one word in Tunisian Arabic. Ready for this? It translates to I spoke to him in English.
No way, seriously. That's wild. How do they even fit all that information into a single word?
That, my friend, is the magic of something called inflection.
Inflection. Okay, explain it to me like I'm 5.
Basically, think of it like this. In Tunisian Arabic, they can pack all these extra bits of information onto their verbs. It's like giving the verbs superpowers. It's not just about the action itself, but also who's doing it, who they're doing it to, even when they did it. All of that can get bundled into the verb.
So it's like each part of the verb is doing the work of like a whole phrase in English. No wonder Basha thinks you can learn this language in 30 lessons if it's that efficient.
Right. But hold on, because it gets even more interesting. Remember how we were talking about how languages can be structured so differently? Well, get this. Tunisian Arabic can sometimes just ditch pronouns altogether.
Wait, what? You mean like just skip over I or you entirely? How does that even work? I feel like that'd be so confusing.
You'd think so, right? But it's actually more common than you might realize. It's called prodrop, short for pronoun dropping, in case you were wondering.
Pro drop, catchy.
Right. And eventually, because the verb already carries so much information about who's doing what to whom, you don't always need to explicitly state the pronoun in Tunisian Arabic. The meaning is still clear from the context.
Huh. So it's all about those context clues. Makes you realize just how much we rely on pronouns in English. Like we're constantly saying I and you.
Absolutely. And these little quirks, these unexpected ways that languages can work, they really make you step back and go, wow, I never thought of it that way before. And it all circles back to that idea of universal grammar we were talking about earlier.
Oh, right. How so?
Well, seeing these unique features in Tunisian Arabic, like inflection or prodrop, it's not about saying one language is better or more advanced than another. It's more about recognizing that there are so many different ways to build a language, so many variations on those underlying rules that might connect us all.
So even though languages can look and sound completely different on the surface, deep down they might be drawing from the same wellspring of human language instinct.
Exactly. Each language finds its own unique way to express meaning, but the underlying principles, those might be more universal than we realize.
That's a pretty mind blowing concept when you think about it. But I gotta ask, are these features we're talking about, the inflection, the pro dropping, are those unique to Tunisian Arabic? Or are there other languages out there playing by similar rules?
It's funny you should ask that. It turns out those features are actually more common than you might think. Like take inflection, for example. It's a cornerstone of tons of languages,
Yeah.
especially those with a long history, like Latin or Greek, which, by the way, have influenced a whole bunch of other languages, including our friend Tunisian Arabic.
So it's like Tunisian Arabic is part of this big interconnected family with roots that stretch way back in time and spread across continents.
Precisely. But it's not just about historical connections, right? Tunisian Arabic also sits at this really fascinating crossroads of different cultural influences, too.
I was just about to go there. We've been getting deep into the mechanics of the language,
Hmm.
the grammar, the structure, all that good stuff. But obviously, language is so much more than just a set of rules.
Oh, absolutely. It's like the lifeblood of a culture. It's how we share stories, express our ideas, connect with each other.
100%. So, how does that cultural richness actually show up in Tunisian Arabic? Like, what are some of the things that make it stand out beyond just the cool grammar tricks? So, we're talking influences layered on top of influences, like a linguistic mixtape.
Exactly. You've got that Arabic base, obviously,
Yeah.
but over time, it's picked up elements of Berber languages, French, Italian. It's like a melting pot of linguistic flavors.
Oh, that's fascinating. So, you've got this blend of sounds, words, maybe even grammatical structures all coming together.
You got it. And it creates this really rich tapestry, where you can hear echoes of different cultures woven into the very fabric of the language.
Hmm.
And that's where Mohammed Bacha's work goes from being impressive to downright inspiring, would you say?
Oh, absolutely. Like, I get fired up just thinking about it. It's one thing to learn the rules of a language, but he doesn't stop there. He wants us to experience the culture, to
Yeah.
feel it in our bones.
100%. He's all about building those bridges. And he does it so brilliantly through those folk tales, songs, proverbs he translates.
Right. Speaking of which, I gotta tell you, I got totally sucked into that excerpt we read from Sabra and Sultan.
Oh, yeah. That one's a classic.
Right. There's bravery, friendship, even a little touch of magic. It's got all the ingredients of a timeless story.
It really does. And that's kind of the beauty of folk tales, isn't it? They tap into these universal themes, these human experiences we can all relate to, but they're also filtered through this unique cultural lens.
So when you read a Tunisian folktale, you're not just enjoying a good story, you're also getting this like insider's look at how Tunisian culture views the world.
Exactly. It's like a window into their values, beliefs, traditions, things that might not be explicitly stated, but you feel them woven into the narrative.
It's like a secret code you're cracking as you read.
Hmm.
And it's not just the stories either. I mean, proverbs, man. Those are like concentrated doses of cultural wisdom.
Oh, totally. They're packed with so much meaning, often in just a few words. It's amazing how much insight you can gain into a culture just by reflecting on their proverbs.
It's like each proverb is a little puzzle box. You open it up And boom, you get this glimpse into how a culture thinks, how they see the world, even their sense of humor.
It's like eavesdropping on a culture's inner monologue in a way. And, when we step back and look at everything we've explored today, the technical intricacies of Tunisian Arabic's grammar, the rich cultural tapestry woven through stories and proverbs, it really highlights how deeply intertwined language and culture truly are, wouldn't you say?
No doubt about it. They're like two sides of the same coin. You can't really have one without the other.
Exactly. So, for our listeners out there who are maybe feeling inspired or at least intrigued, what do you think is the most important thing to remember as they maybe embark on their own exploration of Tunisian Arabic or really any new language?
Ooh, that's a good one. What's the takeaway here?
To me, it boils down to this deep dive. It hasn't just been about the ins and outs of Tunisian Arabic, it's been about the much bigger picture. It's about recognizing that language is a gateway to understanding different cultures, different perspectives, different ways of seeing the world. And that's something we could all use a little more of.
100%. And honestly, if Muhammad Bach's work can inspire even a handful of people to step outside their linguistic comfort zone, to embrace that challenge of connecting with something new and different, well, I think that's a pretty amazing legacy.
Absolutely. Because at the end of the day, it's not about achieving fluency necessarily. It's about that journey of discovery, that willingness to open yourself up to new ways of thinking and experiencing the world. And that, my friend, is something worth celebrating.